Here we're looking at an example to help us understand how economic growth occurs, specifically by looking at a per worker production function. And let's suppose that it looks like this. We know that actually theoretically production functions typically have a curve that looks more like this, but for the purposes of this one, we're going to analyze it if it has what looks to be this exponential production function. And we would like to know what would happen to economic growth in a country with this production function who is accumulating increasing quantities of capital per labor hour. So let's assume that this capital per labor is continually increasing, right? So let's suppose it starts at a point here and we then increase to something over here and this continues, right? So that it looks something like this. Now, what is happening to economic growth? So we're looking up here, Y per L, this is going to be real GDP. So how is real GDP changing? Which we know real GDP gives us a good look at what the economic growth is. Well, if we were to connect these lines to our Y-axis, what we can see is that we're, instead of seeing diminishing marginal returns here like we normally would with a production function, we're actually seeing increasing marginal return. So this gap is getting larger and larger as we go. You can see we have these distances are increasing. And what we can see is that it's this exponential increase in economic growth rather than it being the diminishing marginal return that we're used to seeing in a production function. So what we can conclude here about what would happen to the economic growth is that it's going to grow at an exponential rate, essentially. Say that it will grow exponentially. It will never stop.